and welcome to the first Circle Time, the Early Years podcast of 2025. I'm Glenn Denny, and I am so excited. I absolutely adore this woman. I'm so glad she's back on the podcast. Absolutely brilliant. Vanessa Dooley, welcome back to Circle Time.
Happy New Year.
Good, isn't it?
Oh my wordy. Thank you so much for asking me. I was a bit honoured actually. I felt a little bit like, what? He's asking me? Really? Are you sure? You've done it once before. You want to do it again?
Oh God, yeah. I'm always glutton for punishment. You know that. I mean, like EPOP, like it was. We've got to spend a bit of time talking about EPOP. That was exceptional. I don't think
Oh,
there's enough superlatives to actually describe how
oh.
mind-blowingly brilliant EPOP actually was. I had a blast.
And you were one of the workshop people, weren't you? You were the
I
one, I
was.
don't know what we
It
call you.
was
You're
just.
almost, yeah, you're an e-populist now, born and bred, basically.
It was amazing. So if anyone hasn't booked to go to EPOP 2025, they need to do it because it's
Oh.
the love, the supportive nature, the workshops, just the whole atmosphere is extraordinary. This isn't an early years conference. I mean, I'm going to throw that word in the bin. This is like it is a festival in a field, but there's just it's EPOP. That's all you could describe it
I
as.
know, and it's really weird because people will say to me, "What's EPOP?" So obviously, EPOP stands for Exploring the Power of Play
Mhm,
Festival, but it's almost like it's grown. So we've been doing it what 7 years, 8 years. This will be
mhm,
our 8th year, and it's grown from being in a little church, well, a church hall where I did
mhm.
everything by myself with 100 people, to growing now to actually being so lucky to have the field
Oh
in
my
which.
goodness.
Yeah, I know. And our landlord, he still can't. He still says, "How on earth?" Because he sat in the ice cream, his little beach hut with a bottle of
Hmm.
wine. I put a bottle of wine in there with him with a deck chair, and he just watched everything. And he was just like, "I cannot believe what this is all about." He said, "Look at everybody," and everyone was just smiling, and that's what I love about it. It was just, yeah, blows my mind every time. Kills me, I'll be honest, as you
Hmm.
get a little bit older, you know. But what I loved about you was because we've seen it for every year. What I love about you is the fact that you were just like you were buzzing.
I couldn't.
I could not, if I could have bottled that, I'd be a millionaire right now. But you could not describe to me in words on how you were feeling, especially after your first workshop. You were just like, oh my God, I never experienced anything like that.
Yeah. I don't think I could literally put a sentence together
No.
afterwards. I was like, "It was so good." Like, honestly, I was like an overexcited 2-year-old. Ironic considering my workshop was about 2-year-olds, but
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. And it was great feedback. So yes, if anyone's interested in EPOP, send us a message. Or it's on our website under events. Yeah, we'd
Mhm.
love to see you.
You
Love to.
need to get there. You need to get there. Now, apart from talking about EPOP, there was something else I was wanting to talk to you about. And like, I mean, I know you've done a few like your little snippet videos that you do on socials are amazing. But this is why I wanted to talk to you. So next year, obviously, next year, this yeah,
This year.
2025,
Yeah.
Department for Education, it comes into effect in I think September the 1st, isn't it?
Yeah.
The safeguarding requirements for early years it's not all changing, but there's a lot coming in. I think it makes sense.
To start now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, genuinely, I have already started. I've already
Good.
started prepping for this.
Good. And it's one of those things that we've, obviously last year we had that consultation and it's the government responses
Hmm.
from that. And there are a number of things that we need to put in place ready for September the 1st. And you probably would have seen if you've listened or watched any, like you were saying, of our videos or podcasts or whatever we've been doing, is that you don't leave it till September the 1st. Start now because then when it comes to September the 1st, it's already inbred and it's you do it. It's consistent with whatever you do.
Hmm. I mean, a lot of it as well. It's some of it's common sense, some of it's kind of tightening up on
Yeah.
existing protocols that you have in place. Like, for example, I think one of them is to ensure that there's more than one emergency contact for a child, because I think a lot of settings, and I hold my hands up, I know we just do that. It's like, so long as we've got mum, dad, plus granny or grand, then we're fine. But actually, we should have a bit more than that, because if we're trying to get hold of somebody in an emergency, you can't just stop with 2 or 3.
No, and that's also linked to the attendance policy as well, as having that attendance policy, which, you know, we need to be contacting parents if a child doesn't come in, which we've all been doing anyway. And when I go out and do our audits, we ask that anyway. But sometimes we leave it to the last minute, and actually we shouldn't. We should be, you know, and it's all linked to attendance, it's all linked to prevent duty, it's all linked to all of that thing, those things that we know that's ingrained in us. But also we have a right to actually contact the emergency contact to find out where that child is. And that's really important, is the fact that we use that. And actually, one of the things I would say is making sure that your attendance policy start now is in sharing that with your parents. When your parents come round and you have a show around, give them the attendance policy, because actually they need to know that actually it's law now. You know, by September the 1st, we have a duty of care to protect children, and that's what we need to be doing.
No, because I think, I mean, you know as well, I've been in this for about 100 years. And it was that bit where, but it was that bit where, you know, in the past we would phone a parent going, just professional curiosity, like, oh, is such and such coming in today? Oh, why do you want to know? And like, well, actually, this is, I think it's signposting it, making it clearer for parents. This is why we're doing this. We're not like trying to be nosy. We're not trying to butt into your family, but actually we have the interest of your child at heart, you know.
And that's the 2 words, professional curiosity. And that's something that we ingrain in when we do our delivering of our safeguarding and our DSL. We have a duty to be professionally curious. It's not being nosy, you know, it's not trying to be, you know, trunky and find out what everybody's doing and where they are and where they're going. It's not that at all. It's all about our duty of care to be professionally curious to ensure that children are kept safe.
Absolutely. I mean, the other bit as well, I mean, I've talked about this probably with yourself and probably with others as well, about keeping staff knowledge, you know, current and relevant. I mean, I feel like I'm a bit of a walking advert for Jigsaw. I mean,
you could crack on.
Don't mind me. I will do. I mean, if Anthony's nearby, just tell him, yeah, I've just put an order through. He's probably already seen it. He's probably
he did say that. He did say have you bought our safeguarding scenario cards?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Have you actually got them in front of you?
Yeah, I know, because we're doing a webinar, aren't we? And so that's why I've got everything. But yeah, these are gold dust.
I know. So, I mean, the ones I've got, oh my goodness, I think they're the original ones that I've got.
Yeah.
So I thought it's about time I updated. I do them every week religiously. Pick a fresh card out. I've got the inspection ones as well.
Oh, good.
And I pick a fresh one of that. And luckily my team don't mind a purple card, as we call it. It's like, it's purple card time. But things like that are really, really useful, aren't they, to keep that knowledge fresh?
Yeah, and one of the things that we get asked as well, when we go out and do audits, we always say, can you talk to us about local trends of what's going on in your area? And most people will say something, but there are a few that will say, we've looked on the Safeguarding Partnership website. Now, good luck with that, because there is literally just a nightmare to look at. And they say, we can't really see, you know, you say about local trends, but it doesn't say local trends. Well, the Safeguarding Partnership website is not going to go, these are your local trends. Okay, so you have to do a little bit of digging. And so the digging, I would say, is things like go and check the newsletters and see what's on the most recent newsletter, what's in that newsletter. So for one recent we've done it was something about youth crime. So that was in the newsletter. So for me, that's at the forefront of the local safeguarding partnership. Yeah, that's what's going on in that local area, and that's what they're putting into place. The other thing, some safeguarding partnerships do something which I think is absolutely, and if anyone's listened to this from the local safeguarding partnership, the 7-minute videos or 7-minute little golden nuggets. I love anything that's a bit under 10 minutes, me.
Hmm.
The brain span is just, so these are 7 minutes videos of things that actually are relevant for that local area. So
Hmm.
things like for something, whether it's SIDS or whether it's something to do with choking or whether it's something to do with swimming, swim safety, those
Hmm.
will be those things. But not every safeguarding partnership has that. But I do know that you have to dig a little bit deeper when you go onto that website with those websites.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, like I've because I've worked in 2 or 3 different local authorities in recent times, and they're all the same. They're so out of date. I mean, it's like walking into your granny's dusty wardrobe. It's some of the information, some of the stuff on there. It's dangerously out of
Yeah,
date
yes,
almost.
totally.
It considering that's their sole purpose is to make sure they are that point of contact for information. It's a
And
bit
I'm
worrying.
hoping, yeah, and I am hoping that when September the 1st comes into play, all of these websites will be updated to the best that they possibly can. Because I struggle when, and an inspector's going to ask as well, if you
Mhm.
talk, I know safeguarding is really, really important and we do it a duty of care, but when got an inspector that's going to ask you what are your local trends and you're like, there aren't any. I don't really know where they are or whatever. That's really, really hard. So I'm really hoping that the safeguarding partnerships, will literally update everything that's on their
Mm.
website and make it easier as well. Because it's not, and you've got so many counties, so many safeguarding partnerships. They're all different. You go for Essex, it's going to be different from Suffolk. It's going to be different from Hounslow, wherever it is, it's going to
Mhm.
be different. So yeah, I just hope and pray that they get their bottoms into gear.
Definitely, I hope so. The other thing as well I was looking at, I mean, not that I've got a list in front of me with some of the changes that are coming up, but and I'm really pleased to see this, is making sure that everybody, students and trainees, it's brilliant, that have got a valid pediatric first aid qualification. That
And
is
yeah,
so important.
that is. And I think, in the statutory framework where it says something about you only need one first aider on site or something like that, that's the wording or
Mm.
something you need. That is mind-blowingly wrong.
Oh
I
my
don't get
goodness.
that.
Yeah,
I don't get that at all. So actually putting that in about volunteers and putting that in about apprentices cannot be included in ratios until they have a relevant, full and updated paediatric first aid.
hmm,
It's a godsend to me. But I think it shouldn't just be apprentices and volunteers. It should be everybody.
it should be. I mean, it's like having worked in Scotland, that there's very little guidance in what staff should have. Again, it's down to like basically the same as the statutory framework in that just one person needs to have it. Like, well, that's bonkers. What if that person's off sick that day?
Oh,
You know,
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
or whatever they've suddenly been called out, or I mean, it happened in one of my settings. We had an incident with one of our children where they fell and they did break their arm, and I went with the parent to hospital, because it didn't require an ambulance. I mean, they wouldn't have sent an ambulance anyway for that, but I went with the parent. But luckily, all of my staff were pediatric trained because I
Yeah.
feel that's important.
And can you imagine being the only first aider and having that all of that pressure on your head,
Hmm.
on your shoulders, all of that, knowing that you are the one that has to do the first aid
Yeah,
on it.
it's a lot.
I wouldn't want that. Would you want that?
No,
No,
no.
I wouldn't want that pressure on me. And I think that's really sad. So I do think on that reform, that's missed it. But I know why they do it because they're saying it has an implication on cost and all of this thing. But
Hmm.
actually, the two things that we need in a setting to ensure that actually children are safe. One is first aid and one is safeguarding.
Yeah,
That's it. Two things. That's it.
I know.
So we should all be, if you're safeguarding trained, and I'm glad they've updated it to 2 years now. So glad.
It was very vague before, wasn't it?
Yeah, really vague.
I know. It's one of those. It's that I think in my own setting, um, I'm making a slight change to that. I mean, I had it set as 2 years anyway because I
Yeah.
feel that okay. But I think we're possibly looking at changing and actually doing refresher training every year anyway, because I
Yeah,
think, well, why not?
yeah, I know, I
Like you
know.
say,
I
it's down to
think,
the trends and things like that, and making sure our knowledge is fresh and it's current, because things can change, guidance can change. It's making sure that we're keeping it relevant as well.
and being reactive to that change. This is the problem. Sometimes we leave it too late, and so then when it needs to be changed, it's too late. And actually, it becomes a great big hoo-ha on changing. That's why we say, we should do it now. I have to say, since the reform came out and the consultation responses, when that came out, we have had probably 6 whole setting have booked safeguarding training.
Hmm.
That's unheard of. In 4 weeks, that's unheard of. That is really unheard of. DSL, totally, but safeguarding, not. And that's interesting because I think, well, actually, those setting, fair play to you, because actually you're getting everybody ready now, and this is why it's so important.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that as well. That it's useful as well if the whole setting's doing it at one time, when everyone's due as well. And for a manager, that's really useful.
Yeah,
Like not having to think, oh well, such and such has got that month, and I need to do that person. It's getting yourself organized as well, and that's kind of part of the reform as well, is making sure that it's part of the oh my gosh, what's that word I'm trying to think of? Um, the annex, isn't it? Like
yeah, it is
to make
Annex
sure that
D.
yeah,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
training and that is up to date, and making sure that you've got a training plan for everyone to kind of cover all the subjects as well. I mean, there was one thing that worried me in one setting I was at was county lines training.
Oh, yeah.
None of my team had heard of it. In one setting I was at, nobody had heard of it, and yet there were active county lines
In that area.
gangs in our area. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, why have we never done? Literally, get on that training, everyone, now.
And it's those words that link to it. So cuckooing and all of those things, those words that are
Hmm.
linked to county lines, that
Yeah,
when you go and ask questions, they just look at you and go, what on earth are you going on about?
yeah.
That's when you get asked that, and you just think, you might not think that actually, you have to worry about county lines in your setting because we're early years. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a load of rubbish because you've got young parents, you've got parents out there, you've got brothers, you've got sisters, you've got siblings.
Hmm.
Oh, and actually, you've got apprentices. Come on, they're
Yeah.
still, they're still a minor and a child under a certain age. And
Hmm.
I think that we just need to be thinking, what we tend to do is put our blinkers on. I
Yeah.
know it's like this, blah, 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 but you got to take those blinkers off and go, right, we need to look at the bigger picture.
Because well, that's kind of what the reforms do, I feel.
Yeah,
It's ensuring we have to take those blinkers off, that we have to look at the wider world and go, actually, we are part of this. Things like county lines can happen to us, you know, all that. I think as well, that's how it kind of came about that my staff knew nothing about county line. It was one of the purple cards. I think that was one of the questions on there. And
yeah,
I went round with it and they were like, I haven't a clue. What is that?
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Right. Okay. Um, and that's kind of where it became part of our plan. It's like, yeah, I want you to do this, and we're going to do this every couple of years.
Yeah, I think and actually refreshing it and finding as well is making sure that the training that you've got has impact.
Hmm.
Because actually, I know that there are many online courses out there, and we did do it. We did do an online safeguarding, but we took it off because I just said I didn't feel comfortable with the fact I was doing that online.
Hmm.
I didn't feel that. And there are many out there that do that. And I understand that as a refresher, but not as the main one.
Yeah.
The other one I struggle with as well is DSL. On some local councils, local authorities, you have to do your DSL. So, for example, the setting that I went to last week had done their DSL 10 years ago, right? Yeah, no, hold on.
Uh,
10 years ago, yeah. And they all they've got to do is go to a network meeting every 6 months for that local. So I said, okay, can you prove to me that you've gone to that network meeting every year, every 6 months for 10 years? And they went, no, we just need to turn up. I know, close your mouth, Glenn.
no, no.
And you know what? How many have I been to that has been the case, and that we're failing our children, failing them.
Yeah. I mean, I know. So coming from Scotland back down to England, I had to do my DSL training, and I did it with you guys. With it was Jess that
Yes,
was, yeah, it was
yeah,
brilliant. But when I was down in England previously, I'd done it as you say, and I love this phrase, and I'm sorry, I have stolen it, and shamelessly, no, in fact, no shame at all. I have stolen it from you. Click and forget. I've done the click and
yeah,
forget training, and it did. But although it was online, it was the live online. It was
yeah,
Zoom training, which we've
yeah,
we've kind of merged into since,
yeah.
post pandemic, which is great because it does mean you're still there, you're still able to talk, and there's
And
that
ask
live
those questions.
discussion, but you
Yeah,
can be anywhere.
yeah.
It's the discussion part which is so important, like that chance to ask questions, and that is really important. And that's where I got the benefit from, because I was able to ask those questions, and it is super important.
And it's finding those, those people that do. So for me, I update my instructors safeguarding and DSL training on a regular basis. In fact, back in, well, I think it was September last year, I did the NSPCC the instructors training,
Mhm.
because and it was a big outlay for me, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is a real big amount of money that I'm going to put out there to actually to say that I'm actually competent in being an instructor in safeguarding. But I tell you what, I'm glad I've done it, because it just I learned loads doing it still. So,
Mhm.
and I always say every day is a learning day, and you have to keep updating and have to keep
Mhm.
upskilling. And if you don't do that, that's when it becomes a little bit, well, you lose it, don't you? Don't they
Yeah,
say
it becomes.
if you don't use it, you lose it, or something like that?
Absolutely. Everything
Yeah.
becomes foggy. And that's where things like, my weekly questions, my purple cards come
Yeah.
in, because you've got to keep those skills fresh. It's like when you do your pediatric first aid, they recommend actually doing a little sort of refresher thing
Yeah.
every year. It doesn't have to be the full course, but
No.
you can do online refresher just to remember the skills and the techniques that you need in order to do it. I mean, most of the time we're lucky we just need to put a little plaster on because they've had a little scrape or whatever. But then you get other times when you get a child falling off a tunnel and breaking their arm, which has
Yeah.
happened. But again, because my skills were fresh and current, and I think again this is what it's all about, isn't it? There was something else in there as well, which I was kind of like, oh, okay, and I never thought about it in that way. But it was requirements to ensure safer eating as
Yeah.
well. And I was like, oh, okay. Never really considered it, but I'm like, actually, yeah, it is part of safeguarding as well.
And actually, how many settings I go to is the fact that actually children are left to eat on their own quite a bit while staff go and do jobs,
Mm,
getting the beds ready,
yeah.
putting on their iPad, checking how much they've eaten. There's no, and I always say that lunchtime, not only is it about safer eating, but that's the best time for interactions with children.
Hmm.
The best time, and I would always do a joint observation at lunchtime, because that's when you get so much out of it. The children are there, they're busy eating, they're asking these questions, you can talk about healthy eating and stuff. But I feel the whole safer eating, we've had some really sad cases where children have choked, and
Hmm.
actually it should be. And this is the whole thing where, some of the wording where it says sight and sound, just sit down with the children,
Hmm.
sit down and talk
It's
and
what
be
we
with
do.
them.
What
Yeah.
we do. I love it. I absolutely love that. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I've worked in some settings many, many years ago where the staff would hover by the table. They would stand out. Oh, no. Get a chair, sit down, talk to the children. Grab a plate, have some lunch with them.
And I always say as well, if you go to a restaurant and you've got somebody hovering over your shoulder while you're eating, what are you going to say to them? Well, I know what I'd say to them. I can't repeat it on here, but I
No,
do.
please don't. Please don't. I don't think I've got a beep machine
Oh,
on
you
this
haven't got to beat
podcast,
the thing, no. But actually, that's exactly what we're doing. We're giants to children. Sit down, be interactive, talk to
Mhm.
them, ask them what they're eating, eat with them. Is it such a bad thing to eat with a child?
No, it's
No.
really love. Like you say, it's that important. It's a real moment of connection
Yeah,
as
totally.
well, and that is so important. Being able to sit and encourage the children. I mean, I always like. in my current setting, the children bring their own lunches in, but so do we, and then we'll just sit down together, and I'll bring my
What's that? Bit
sandwiches.
nosy what's in their lunches.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
love to know. Oh,
oh
what have
yeah.
you got in there?
I know we do. And it's like, oh, that bit. It's like, oh, I like that. Can I just have that bit? And they're like, no. And
Yeah,
there's that encouragement to eat because they think I'm going to go and steal whatever it
yeah,
is, their
excellent.
carrot stick or whatever,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But yeah, it is one of those bits. I think as well, we're talking about choking and things like that. I mean, I've gone in and done the setting I'm in. We didn't really look and at what um foods were safe to eat and how they needed to be chopped up and all this. I've got the guidance up now. I mean, it's there, the guidance is there,
Yeah,
but the team weren't aware of it. And I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
okay, yeah. So, and now it's a case of like the team will say, there's such and such. Do I need to chop that up? No, you need to chop it up, but you don't need to peel it. It's fine,
yeah.
things like that. It's
No, I know. It's understanding, and that's the good thing with the guidance as well, where the response comes in. It actually says to you, it says about the NHS place for you to go and look to say about where to find what good food is, where what's safe, what's not safe to eat. So it's not, the guidance is there. It's basically telling you everything that what you should be doing.
mm,
And I think we should be using that as a rule, because we think we know what we are supposed to be doing, but that's not necessarily the case, is it?
true,
No,
true.
no. So
The other bit as well, which I'm glad they've kind of made it stand out a bit more, is about whistleblowing. And I think
oh
that's
yes,
really, really, really important because you should never be afraid to shout out about bad practice or dangerous practice as well. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, there's the incidents that have happened recently, in the recent sort of in the last year or so, has highlighted the importance. For me, it was like staff stood back and let something happen which caused the death of a child.
totally.
Why? Why didn't you shout out about it? You care for these children,
Yeah.
care enough to shout out.
Yeah, I think I did some training once, quite recently about whistleblowing, because they had a concern and they needed staff all to be aware. And one of my first questions was, what is it that stops you from whistleblowing on a colleague? And one of them said, which floored me, but I pulled it right back, is that she didn't want to, or they didn't want to snitch on their friends. And I went, okay, a child's safety, a practitioner's safety, or snitching on your friends. Let's put it into perspective here.
Mm.
And to be fair, she did, they did come back and just go, that was the wrong word to use. But even the word whistleblowing is scary, Mary, isn't it? I mean,
It
really?
is.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be anything about dobbing in your staff, staff member or snitching on them. What we're doing is we've got a duty of care to protect. That's
Mm.
what we do. We put our capes on, and that's what we do.
Ah, not all heroes wear capes.
Well, in
But
my
it's
eyes,
true.
they do.
No, some of them wear hoodies, and I have to say, I still wear mine every day. Just
Yeah, I
saying.
do. I like a hoodie, me too, if I'm honest with you. But we could call it a cape.
Okay,
It's got a hood, you just put it on your head.
that's true.
That's
That's
true.
true.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa, we are rapidly running out of time, so I'm going to say a massive thank you. I mean, I think we both agree that the changes are positive, but it's okay. It's 1st of September to come in, but start now, I think,
Do
is
it
the
now.
key
Come
message,
on.
isn't it?
Yeah, come on, early years. We've got this. Come on. There's a lot of information out there and it shouldn't be. We've done lots of things. We've done our whistleblowing policies that's free, our attendance policy that's free. There are so many things, not just from us, from other people as well. So,
Mhm.
if you're and actually, like yourself, if you're stuck, pick the phone up, give us a call. We don't mind. We can
Yeah,
point you in the right direction. Oh yeah, I've seen somebody do that. Let's have you think about that. Yeah, honestly, get it going now. Don't leave it too late. Please don't.
definitely not. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. And I'm
Very
quite
well.
sure it won't be the last time. I might drag you back
Sure.
on again another time. But brilliant. Thank you very much, Vanessa Dooley.
You're very welcome. Take good care.